Hello, Cliffy here from Cliff Dive into Movies, and let's dive all the way back to 1934, and let's talk about Tarzan and his mate. 1932's Tarzan the Ape Man was a huge success, so MGM quickly made arrangements with Tarzan's creator Edgar Rice Burroughs to make three more movies, the first one being Tarzan and his mate. Released in 1934, filming for Tarzan and his mate began in August 1933, with 6'3", 29-year-old Johnny Weissmuller returning as Tarzan, and 5'3", 22-year-old Maureen O'Sullivan returning as Jane. Also returning was Neil Hamilton as Ivory Hunter Harry Holt. New characters were Holt's friend and fellow Ivory Hunter Martin Arlington, played by Rod LaRoe, and rival Ivory Hunters Tom Pierce and Henry Van Ness, played by Murray Kinnell and Frank Reacher. Directing was first-time director Cedric Gibbons. Gibbons was a top MGM art director. In fact, he had a very long career and he won many Oscars. In fact, he worked on most of the Weissmuller Tarzans and he worked on The Wizard of Oz and Forbidden Planet. Many people contributed to the script, but the only one who got screen credit was James Kevin McGinnis. Filming, however, did not go smoothly. 3.5 weeks after filming began, filming stopped. When filming started up again in early September, Rod LaRoe was replaced by Paul Kavanaugh as Arlington, and William Stack and Desmond Roberts replaced Murray Kinnell and Frank Reacher as Pierce and Van Ness. Cedric Gibbons was also no longer the director. Instead, directing duties were split between Jack Conway directing the first unit, the scenes with the dialogue, and James McKay, Errol Taggart, and Nick Grind splitting directing all the second unit scenes. Maureen O'Sullivan had her own difficulties. During filming, she was gone for 45 days because of and I can never say this right, appendectomy. Also, if you look closely in some of the scenes, you can see that she has a bruise on her arm and a pretty big bruise on her thigh. Originally, in order to make Tarzan and his mate a bigger film than Tarzan the Ape Man, the producers had thought about actually filming in Africa. However, in 1931, a movie called Trader Horn, it's got the same similar story to Tarzan, but instead of finding a guy, they find a beautiful blonde woman, was filmed in Africa, and it faced numerous difficulties during filming. However, not filming in Africa probably relieved Maureen O'Sullivan because the barefoot, half-naked star of Trader Horn, Edwina Booth, contracted malaria during filming and pretty much ruined her life. She never worked again after that and was pretty much a recluse. Instead, the movie filmed in California's Lake Sherwood, Sherwood Forest, China Flats, and Woodland Park. It's a year after the events in Tarzan the Ape Man, and Ivory Hunters Holt and Arlington are leading an expedition into the Motia Escarpment to go to the elephant graveyard and collect ivory. Holt has two goals, however. One is to get ivory, and the other is to see if he can get Jane to go back to civilization with him. However, rival Ivory Hunters Pierce and Van Ness steal Holt's map. Holt and Arlington proceed anyway, and on the way they discover that Pierce and Van Ness have been killed by the local tribe. When the tribe goes after Holt and Arlington, Tarzan saves them. That night, they make up camp, and where Holt tries to woo Jane with all the comforts of civilization, coffee, perfume, music, he provides Jane with clothes and has her try on a tight-fitting dress, stockings, and high heels. Now, Holt always seems like a very nice guy. To me, he gives off Commissioner Gordon vibes, and he's always nice to Tarzan, despite the fact that Tarzan literally stole the woman that he was in love with. But his plan to entice Jane to go back to civilization with him with the comforts of civilization and let me put it this way. Jane has been going barefoot and half naked for almost a year, and his solution is to bring her high heels, boots, and a tight-fitting dress, and that's going to entice her to go back. I'm pretty sure that plan's not going to work. What he should have done, I think, was just stick with the coffee. That would get her to go back. Tarzan refuses to guide Holt and Arlington to the elephant graveyard, so Arlington, who's not nearly as nice as Holt is, shoots an elephant, and that elephant leads them to the graveyard. He also shoots Tarzan and convinces Jane that with Tarzan dead, she should go back to civilization with them. Jane agrees, and on the way back, the expedition is captured by the local tribe. The tribe holds a ceremony where they will use a pride of lions to kill the expedition. Holt and Arlington redeem themselves because they sacrifice themselves in order to protect Jane, and Tarzan eventually comes to rescue Jane using an elephant stampede. And I do mean rescues Jane. He doesn't really seem to be concerned with anybody else. Since Jane has been living in the jungle for over a year with Tarzan, the producers decided that Jane should wear an outfit similar to Tarzan's. She too would go barefoot, and she would wear a loincloth that would leave the sides of her legs exposed. She would also go topless. It was decided that they would use branches and other items to obscure her chest. After some test filming, and I'm sure they took as long as possible to do the test filming, it was decided that the topless option was going to be too difficult and not practical, and instead a sleeveless top was made for Jane. Apparently, it didn't occur to anybody to give O'Sullivan either a wig or to give her hair extensions to make her hair long enough to cover her breasts. Tarzan and His Mate was a hit when it came out. However, in the US, it did do less than Tarzan the Ape Man had done, but internationally, it did better. Its final budget was just over $1.2 million, and in the US, it made $2.2 million, which is pretty good considering a movie ticket cost about 23 cents at the time. So, in 2024 dollars, that would be just over $50 million on a $28 million budget. The movie is not only considered one of the best, if not the best Tarzan movie ever made, it is also considered just a film classic in general. In 2003, the Library of Congress added it to their National Film Registry. However, it was one of the most controversial movies of the 1930s. Although the first two Johnny Weissmuller Tarzan movies were made for adults, they were still family friendly movies. Some people didn't like that Tarzan and Jane were sleeping together. It is never stated that if they are married or not, but there is a scene where Jane asks Tarzan who he loves, and he says, "My wife." Jane's skimpy outfit was also considered way too risque. It designed so that it's sleeveless, her midriff is exposed, and her entire leg is exposed. This was long before bikinis, and swimsuits at the time covered the hip area. Just imagine if they had decided to go with the topless look. And the biggest outcry about the movie was where Jane has a scene where she swims naked with Tarzan. These scenes were filmed with Olympic swimmer Josephine McKim subbing for O'Sullivan. Weissmuller was an Olympic swimmer on his own, so he was able to do his own swimming. This scene would be edited out and not put back in until the 1980s. So, what do you think of Tarzan and His Mate? It's one of my favorite two Tarzan's films. It's this one, and my other one is Tarzan's Greatest Adventure with Gordon Scott as Tarzan and Sean Connery as one of the henchmen for the bad guy. My name's Cliffy. I hope you liked this video as much as I liked making it, and take care.